Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iPhone 11 I think is probably the best iPhone this year for most people. And last year iPhone XR actually was the best-selling iPhone, and people really didn't like it on the surface as far as specs and things like that, those that are into technology, but for the majority of people, this is the phone to get this year if you're looking at iPhones. Now, I wanted to talk about a few different things such as price and storage and design and the camera and some specs and things like that. And if you want to jump to a specific point in the video, I've linked all the time codes in the description below. Now, the first thing is the price. This is the number one reason I think people buy this phone the most, and that's because it starts at $699. And it's $699 without any deals or trade-ins. That's if you buy it straight from Apple without any carrier deals. So it comes in 64, 128, and 256 gigabytes of storage. I think the sweet spot for most people is 128 gigabytes, which is just $50 more than the base model. So I would highly recommend, if you're getting one of these, to step up for $50 to 128. Most people really don't need much more than that. There are a few people that do, but in my instance, I'm actually a pretty heavy user as far as iPhone and taking video and things, and I usually use around about 60 gigabytes at most. So if we go to storage here, you'll see in my iPhone storage, I'm using 71 gigabytes currently, and that's because I haven't enabled things like auto delete old conversations or enabled iCloud photos. As soon as I do that, it will jump down 12 gigabytes and I'll be around that 60 gigabyte mark that I find that I normally use. And that's with me regularly recording video and things like that. So for most people, it's probably enough. If you really need that extra storage, of course, step up to 256 gigabyte. Now, the overall design and size is another reason I think it's kind of the sweet spot. This is a 6.1 inch display, and the overall size is just kind of perfect for a lot of people's hands. It's in between the size of the iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro Max, and it's just kind of a sweet spot, I think, if you're looking for a larger phone, but you don't want a giant phone. And so compared to an 11 Pro Max, for example, you'll see it's a little bit smaller, but it's not so small that you're missing out on a lot of screen real estate. And the overall design is pretty nice. It's got multiple colors that it comes in, if you weren't familiar with that already. And this is the new green color. There's also a newer purple color, but there's white, black, yellow, and product red. So you have all of these different options as well. And a lot of people just put a clear case on this so they can see that color and are really happy with the different choices. If you don't like the pastels, of course, you could just get white or black. Now, as far as the design, it's aluminum around the outside edge. That's what differentiates it from the 11 Pro and Pro Max, where those are stainless steel, but it does reduce some of the weight as well. Because it's aluminum, it's very lightweight, and you've just got your normal power button on the right side, along with your SIM card tray down at the bottom. And then on the bottom of the phone, you've got your Lightning port, like all of the others, with speakers and microphones. On the other side, you have your volume buttons and your silent switch or your vibrate switch. And on the back, you have a glass back and front on this, and it allows for wireless charging. So you're not missing out on any of those features as far as fast charging or anything like that. But the iPhone 11 does not include a fast charger in the box. And so if you wanted that extra speed, you'd need to get one of those newer iPad-style chargers, USB-C to Lightning, in order to actually charge this fast. But most of the time, just throw it on a wireless charger or use the included charger. We do have dual cameras. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But the overall display, this is an area where most people, I think, say this isn't a great phone, and where I would argue with most people on this. And that's because it's a 1792 by 828 pixel resolution, but it's 326 pixels per inch. So that means it has the same pixel density or the same amount of pixels in the same area as, say, an iPhone 8 does. And so everyone loved the iPhone 8 display, and this is actually a little bit better than that. It has great viewing angles. It goes nice and bright if you want to be out in the sunlight. You can see it really easily, but it is not as bright as an OLED display. It's currently available on the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max, and the blacks are not as deep, but everything else is spot on. Color accuracy is great, and some people say that this phone is more color accurate than that of the Pro models of iPhone 11. Now, the display does not have 3D touch. It has haptic touch, but all current new iPhones have haptic touch. That just means you press and hold as opposed to having a pressure-sensitive display. That may be a deal breaker for some, but Apple's continually moving away from 3D touch and just making it a press and hold. They've kind of made it consistent throughout all of iOS 13 devices. So I don't think we'll see that brought back. That's a pressure-sensitive layer under the display, and I think it's just something they're doing away with and using press and hold overall. Now with the iPhone 11, you're not missing out on anything as far as specs because this has the same exact processor and RAM as the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. So you've got the A13 Bionic chipset along with the third generation neural engine, and that allows for this to really perform very well. You also get 4 gigabytes of RAM. So whether or not you're doing anything from going to music, or maybe you're going into a simple app like weather, or editing a 4K video, or playing games such as Fortnite, this will handle that no problem whatsoever. It's going to be the same as it is on the latest iPhones and iPads and everything like that. So you're not missing out at all when it comes to that. You can handle multitasking no problem. You'll have a ton of apps open, go back into whatever app you're looking at, whether that be YouTube or whatever you have here, and it works just fine. Now, battery life is one of those things I get asked about quite a lot, and the iPhone 11 gets great battery life, but it's not as good as the iPhone 11 Pro or Pro Max because this year they really upped the batteries in those devices. But you still get a very large 3,110 milliamp hour battery in the back, and that allows for about 7 hours of screen on time, 8 hours of screen on time. Some people are seeing up to 10, but the majority of people are going to see around 7 or 8 from what I've heard and what people have told me. It just depends on how you use your phone and what you're doing throughout the day. So if we wait for battery to load, you'll see I used it just a little bit yesterday, and I used maybe a quarter of the battery to get a couple hours of screen on time. So it's really good with battery. It's very efficient. And the other thing it's good at is LTE. It has great reception. In fact, I would say it might be a little bit better than the Pro phones. And I don't know if that's because the outside edge is aluminum versus stainless steel, although that shouldn't really make a difference. I do find that I have better reception and better overall data connectivity with it, even though it's technically a little bit slower than the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. Now, as far as the cameras are concerned, the cameras on this are fantastic. They're the same exact quality cameras that we get in the Pro line, and the only thing you're missing with these is a telephoto lens, but that doesn't really seem to make too much of a difference in tests that I've done. You can use 2x zoom using the camera, and next to the Pro version, you probably can't tell the difference unless you blow it up on a large scale. So even if I zoom in on my keyboard here, you'll see it still looks nice and clear, even though it's zoomed in. It's digital, but they've done a really good job when it comes to that. So there's no issues there. And then of course you have that super wide angle lens, and then you have just a normal 1x. So all of these things combined make for a great camera, and you can record in 4K. You can record it up to 4K 60. So if we go into our camera settings here, you'll see we have 4K. Here's the different options: 4K 24, 30, and 60. So you've got the same capabilities as you do as far as video recording as you do with the Pro line. The forward-facing camera on this is excellent, whether it be the video camera or the photo camera. It's the same camera that you get in the 11 Pro and Pro Max. So you could use it to vlog. It's very, very good, and there's no issues with it whatsoever. I highly recommend the cameras on the iPhone, and in fact, in a lot of conditions, the iPhones are the best out there when it comes to the cameras on the 11, 11 Pro, and Pro Max. So you're not compromising at all except for one lens. And then finally, this does have water resistance and dust resistance with the IP68 certification. It means it can be submerged in 2 meters of water for up to 30 minutes. However, that doesn't mean you should be bringing it in the water without a waterproof case on it, because Apple doesn't cover that sort of thing. So if it has water damage, if it gets in a little bit, they're not going to cover that unless you have Apple Care, but you'll still have to pay a replacement fee. But overall, it's an excellent phone, and it holds up really, really well just next to the Pro line. In fact, because of its $300 less price, that's why I recommend this phone most of all, because those that don't care about specs, that don't care about an LCD versus an OLED display and don't care about the stainless steel, this is the phone to get for most people. For those that do want that extra one, well, you can step up for $300 to the Pro line. But otherwise, this is the phone I recommend to just about anyone that asks me that isn't really into specs. They just want a great phone that's going to last a few years without any issues. And that's why I recommend the iPhone 11. But let me know about it in the comments below and which phone you're currently using or looking to purchase next. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.